Hi, and it looks like I'm live. Good. So hi again, and welcome to Coffee with Craig. This is where I talk about current events and things like that, and particularly at this time of year, my predictions. So this video is going to be about my predictions for Europe being made on the 8th of December 2022. And here we go. Well, hi, and thanks for joining me live, because some of you are coming on live now. I kind of go a little bit randomly live, so thanks for catching me. So I'm going to talk today about some of my predictions for 2023 for Europe. And I'll take one or two of your questions afterwards. Obviously, Europe's huge topic. There's so much I could say, so forgive me for the stuff that I don't say. But I'm going to say a few thoughts about what I feel is coming up in Europe in the coming year. Now, already a lot of what I've said has happened from last year, and particularly as I speak, also some of these plots on the in Germany, the almost rise of the new Reich type of thought, horrible, seemed to come up because I was talking about this right-wing agenda happening in Germany, which would come unexpectedly, which has happened, and many, many other things as well. But that's actually topical at the time I'm speaking for this, if you're watching this a long time later. And if you're enjoying this, don't forget, click the comments. When you can comment now. I'll take your comments up when I've gone live, but also afterwards. I'd like to know your thoughts, any more questions, because obviously I'm going to have to address a lot more of these things as the year progresses, because I can't fit everything in. So I just wanted to give a few thoughts generally of things that seem to have jumped out at me at the moment, which I'm going to share with you now for my thoughts about what I was getting in my meditations. Funnily enough, one of the countries that has been coming up in my mind more than anything, which we here in the UK we don't see in the news much, is Sweden. I have a feeling that something very serious is going to happen in Sweden in 2023. I saw a sort of a bit like kind of what's happened in a little bit was planned in Germany, but I'm seeing a sort of a shootout in Sweden. And an attack on the government. Now, it's not quite like that. It's like somebody or somebody has been shot, or there's been somebody shot, and there's people, and there's a lot of general unrest too. Now, Sweden is the kind of the country we look to as being the country of real common sense so often, isn't it? And tolerance. But I'm seeing quite a upheavals there, and I'm beginning to see that I feel as if people there are going to turn on the people who have emigrated into Sweden. So I feel there's a lot of social unrest, but I'm actually seeing a lot of attacks by guns, which is, I see, unprecedented. I feel they have had some stuff like that in Stockholm in the past, but I particularly feel that this is something that seems to affect one of the or maybe a group of politicians. A bomb or a gun or something like that worries me. And I think we're going to get a lot more kind of general unrest and a lot of turns to kind of right-wing thinking, what we call, perhaps more extremist politics being uncovered. We've had it in Germany. I think they've only got the top of the iceberg there, but I'm seeing there's much, much more behind the scenes. But also in Poland, I feel there may be a turn to much more nationalistic thinking. Similarly, in France, I feel that's going to happen, and also in Italy as well. And I think this is a sign of major cracks appearing in the EU as people become a lot more nationalistic and starting to want to secure their broad borders. So I think there's going to be sort of much more moves towards a breakup of the EU. We won't break up in 2023, but I have said in the past that I don't feel the EU will stay together. And I do feel that there will be a breakup gradually. I mentioned Denmark in the past that would call for a vote to exit. That maybe that's going to be in 2023 too, or more calls like this. And I think one of the ones we're going to see in 2023 is going to be Hungary, because I feel Hungary is going to really be very much more resistant than ever about taking on its quota of immigrants. And I feel that the bluff is going to be called, and we may even see Hungary as being one of those that makes a forced exit of the EU. I'm seeing, sanctions almost there, something happening like that. So Europe sanctioning itself, fining itself. Not a good sign for unity, I'm afraid. Also, UK I'll do separately as a separate video. It's of course trying to squeeze all these videos in before the new year with Christmas upon us. It's not always easy. But I think in the EU there might be calls to return to the EU, but it will fail. But I think there's been secret plots going on in the background to try to sort of see if there's a way we can undo Brexit. And I think that will be revealed. I think there's going to be a big expose of that later on, possibly if you're Sunak. I think he might, Rishi Sunak, I think he might be a call to book on this. But that's on for something else for another time. Now, generally in Europe, I feel that there's going to be, well, we've already got it, an economic downturn. I predicted this in 2022. I said it was going to be pretty serious, and it is perhaps even more serious than I expressed. When people call me the prophet of doom and so forth, it is perhaps more serious than I expressed. But I see Ireland being hit hard. And I'm seeing there also lots of big companies leaving Ireland, which is going to be very unfortunate. And I'm also seeing a housing crisis there. I don't know what, I have no idea what goes on in Ireland. I don't know anything about it, but I get a feeling there's going to be something big and serious about a collapse of the housing market and people, being homeless and things like that. Now, I've also mentioned in my main world predictions ones about food shortages. And I think Ireland's going to be one of those countries that's going to be affected. And I see because of this, closer ties coming with the EU. Well, not with the EU, with the UK, rather. I see greater ties between Ireland and the UK. And I think this actually, rather than the future, the UK breaking up into smaller parts, in the long-term future, I think Ireland it will not be it won't be the UK, but it'll all become the British Isles. I think, I'm talking a long, long way ahead, but I think one day that it'll all come together as the British Isles. So we got the food shortages. Also, Greece. There's some talk at the moment about the Elgin marbles and things, and I think those Elgin marbles will be returned to Greece eventually. I personally think they should be. But I think there will be closer ties between Greece and the UK because of this. The first stages of it, I feel, will happen in 2023. Even though there's a lot of resistance to this, I get the sense that some of them may be lent for restoration or to be molded so they can be replaced on the actual Parthenon, mock-ups of it and things. So sort of excuses made so that we can actually lend them to Greece. And I feel that that's going to be quite important. I do sense also, while I'm on the topic of Greece, that there may be conflicts again between Greece and Turkey. So I feel there's going to be another explosion of immigration into Europe. in 2023. Whether it comes through Greece again, or whether it comes through Italy, or whether it comes through Spain, because it's come on all the underbelly of Europe, is a threat, I feel, from this. And I think there's going to be very strong waves of protests about that in Greece. And I'm seeing some conflicts over islands. It's like islands. So maybe this is the Turkey thing. I'm seeing that small islands, small ones. It wasn't a big organization with that, guys. So also France, I feel is, I'm seeing quite a lot of, generally through Europe, a period ahead of a lot of instability, actually. And again, a lot of social unrest ahead, triggered perhaps because of inflation, triggered perhaps because of an economic downturn, triggered perhaps because shortages of basic things. We've had the shortages of fuel, but we haven't had the food yet. And I think the two may come hand in hand, because I think the world's got a tough time ahead. If you look at some of my other predictions about the possible war in the Middle East, the conflicts with the Saudis as well that may occur between, and Israel's possible attack on Iran. I'm seeing all Europe is, and we got Ukraine, of course, happening in Europe as well. But all of these things, I think, are going to take its toll, and which we will find in 2023. It won't go on forever. I think this 2023 is going to be a year of quite a lot of difficulties between us. I think the president of France is going to be taken ill as well. I'm seeing him being taken out of power for a while, illness around him. And at the same time, it's a time of a lot of crisis, because I'm seeing street protests, and I'm seeing sort of like the calls, the old calls of the French Revolution, you know, and the Vive la France type of mentality becoming much more dominant in France and becoming a much more nationalistic country. So I'm seeing this in all Europe, actually. I'm seeing nationalism in Germany. I'm seeing nationalism in France. I'm seeing nationalism even in countries like Sweden, like I started with. Much more of our national identity, much more of a turn against European values, you know, values of the EU and the free movement of people in particular. Germany, we've already had this week these worrying sort of signs of a political attempts at coups and things. I think those sort of things are going to get stronger. I don't think they've even scratched the top of the iceberg with this. I feel there's much more ahead. And over the 2023, as I've said in some of my other videos, there's going to be much more revelations about what's really been going on with China. You know, people talk about the dark state, or whatever it is they talk about here, and secret agendas. But I think it's China behind it all. It's not some, you know, they got into cahoots with international companies, and the international companies, you know, they'll do whatever the highest bidder will give them, you know, whoever they are. They're not concerned about nations. And I think we're going to see a great deal more of revelations about Chinese bribery, also Russian bribery, and particularly in Germany. A lot of deals have been done over Hong Kong, particularly. I feel something about deals that were done over Hong Kong and Germany, and something about the German financial services industry too. Something about a big deal that was a cheat done, a big financial scandal revealed, of tricks and false accounting done over Chinese money, but particularly funneled through Hong Kong. Okay, so I'm seeing Germany pulling out of China. So much embarrassment, so much turn against what the government had done, and a big shake-up going there. So these sort of things, I feel, affect all the countries of Europe and UK and America. I think that we have been sleepwalking into disaster as the Chinese quietly take over the world. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to take us over. That's my opinion. And I don't know what you guys think. Let's have your opinions as well, you know, because some of this may be just the influence of my own thoughts, but as you know, I do tend to get quite a lot right. And I obviously, most of this, I hope, is coming from my clairvoyance. I can't tell, because sometimes I don't want to colour things. But let's have your opinions as well, because opinions are important too. But my other feelings was, again, for Italy. I see a big, huge drug scandal going on over in Italy. And in fact, I see a war on drugs throughout Europe, actually, but also a move in Europe to legalize cannabis Europe-wide, actually. So I'm seeing that as an attempt to break some of the money that these cartels make through illegal dealings with that. But I see a big drug scandal in Italy, a big sort of a bust type thing. But I see implications that the Vatican is being involved, not knowingly, but Vatican involved through something like the Vatican Bank or something like that, or money laundering somehow done, or a priest involved in this or something, this or something disguised. There's some story that I'm seeing there that is almost like something out of a movie. And I was just getting this sort of thing, oh, they're going to make a movie of this sort of thing. And I don't think it's a movie that's being made that I'm seeing. I think this is a real life event that's about to take place that might become a movie one day. So it's quite intriguing. And it involves all sorts of things such as torture and things like that. I saw, criminals involved in things like that. And I also feel with Italy also, there's going to be, again, a move against immigration, and I'm seeing Italy removing people who have any form of criminal record. So if a person's come from a foreign country, even if they've got an Italian passport or a European passport, they can be removed from the country if they've broken the law. And I'm seeing this as important because it's a precedent. And I feel it will affect other countries, that we can remove people from our country if they have a criminal record. And that might be something simple, not quite parking fine, but small things. And I feel these moves are going to be made in many countries. So those were some of the main things I saw countrywide. European wide, I think there's a decline in Europe at the moment ahead because of financial problems. That's something that's already with us, if we're honest. But I saw that in 2022, remember, and I talked that this year would be, in England, would be the winter of our discontent again. I even said those words from the past, and we've had that, and we're all on strike here over Christmas, which is horrible. And what's happening, I think, here in the UK will spread also to Europe. I think we're going to see lots of strikes, lots of disruption. And I feel some of it might turn violent, because I see, for example, a bridge exploding. I don't know why I see that. Is it a terrorist thing? I saw something with a bridge damaged or exploding or collapsing, something with a bridge. It's like a road bridge. It was, I saw. So there's something like that I saw as well. And when it comes to Russia, the hope of places like Germany is that Russia might come to heel eventually, and we can sort of pick up the oil again. It's not going to happen. Russia's going to turn its eyes east after all this conflict is finished in Ukraine, which I mentioned in a minute, which is going to drag on, I'm afraid. And I also see, despite all the desires to have clean energy, we're going to have a dash for coal power again as a temporary solution. And this, it will happen even in the most green orientated politically countries such as Germany and France and so forth. Although France has got a lot of nuclear power, I still feel there's going to be a massive shortfall. It will also be unprecedented weather in the south as well this coming year. I'm seeing absolute droughts throughout all the south of France, right the way through Italy and things. And I'm seeing what actually just flashed to me, Catalan by Spain. I think there's going to be another quite terrorist almost type of style fights going on in Catalan, and big protests on the street of Barcelona, and a complete shutdown of Barcelona. I'm seeing here, complete shutdown of Barcelona is completely stopped, and that might be right in the holiday peak seasons. Also, I saw a passenger ship in the Mediterranean in trouble. I don't think it completely sinks, but I saw something in trouble, and I see it in the news. And there's a passenger ship that gets in serious trouble, and it's all over the news. There. These are just odd things that came to me too. I also saw a strange archaeological discovery, and it gave me the feeling that I was somewhere. I think I was around kind of the Black Sea area, in the areas where Turkey joins Greece, but just north of it. Not Macedonia, but north of that. But a discovery of a civilization, or hints of a civilization, which goes way, way, way back, as quite a fairly advanced civilization that we haven't heard of before. Something that seems to give me a hint of something that almost had a sort of Indian feel to it, because I felt as if I felt like a Shiva Lingam or something found like that. It was an odd thing, and it seemed to hint at something that there was some a different history to what we know in the far back history we're talking about here. And I also saw, CERN. I felt as if they had a fault. I felt shutdown there for some reason. That was another thing I saw. Zoom, stopped. Not serious, not dangerous. This is just a sort of incidental thing I saw. Boom, as if they had to turn all the power off. Something had to stop. It just turned off. So the main situations I see in Europe is economic downturn, which is one of the main worries. That's going to be worldwide, of course, but that's going to affect things that are happening in Europe. I don't see an upturn in 2023. I think we've got to go a little bit further ahead for that. Unemployment and inflation are getting much worse than predicted, and social unrest because of this, and people turning on other people's immigration. Basically, I feel much more divisions in society over that, and they're very much the rise of extreme politics, unexpected extreme politics. Ukraine, I'll have to do with something separate, but I've spoken quite a lot about that already, and I feel that it will grind on. It will grind on and grind on. Eventually, I think the Ukrainians will win back their territory and may even, I think, win back Crimea. But there will be, one of the things that concerns me there is I did have a vision of one of those nuclear power stations on fire. And I think this is something that we have obviously to worry about. I don't think it would be as big as Chernobyl was, where that was a complete meltdown. But I saw fire at the one of the nuclear power station plants there, which is obviously clearly something to have a bit of concern with. Now, and another thing I saw, actually one last thing that I remember, I saw it was a bit Jurassic Parkish. I saw that they actually do get to the point. I've seen something about they get to the point of creating a mammoth fetus. It doesn't survive, but they get to the point of the cellular level of being able to use an elephant's ovary to try to make a mammoth. And I think there's something I see. I don't think they go the whole way, but I just get the feeling some big breakthrough with something where we're able to use ancient DNA, really ancient DNA, reconstructed somehow, to try to see if we get close to something like that. So I felt that was coming up as some quite unusual and quite some significant breakthroughs actually in medicine generally in Europe as the way ahead. Okay, I'll take a few questions. So obviously this is the last, only a few more minutes now, just a few questions from you guys. So try to keep them nice and clear, because you kind of in your comments there, you kind of chat with each other. So for me, it's quite difficult because they move quite quick because it's me doing it. Let's have a look what you've got to say. Canada predictions, no, can't do that. Sorry. We're doing... Oh, okay, that was quite an interesting one, actually. What about Italy and the Dutch and German governments being anti-farmer for their tri-state city of 2030? Dreams being built on farmland across Germany, Netherlands, Belgium. I think one of the moves that's going to happen, I don't know the full details of all that European the farming stuff. I know vaguely about it. I was seeing much more a move gradually to trying to become much more of a self-sufficient, each country wanting to become much more self-sufficient. This food crisis thing that I see ahead is going to teach the world about some of the dangers of globalism, because the problem with globalism is if it goes wrong in one place, it can go wrong in another, and one place can damage another. So there's much more move towards self-sufficiency. So that's one of the things I feel with that, and that could be a move towards self-sufficiency. Let's take some of your other questions here. How can I get a reading? Someone saying that not doing readings at the moment. I'm turning them off for Christmas. Sorry, I need a break too. Was the German Revolution Russian backed? I think yes. This is one of the things I've been sort of talking about a little bit there before. And I feel it's Chinese money is what I see. And I think Russian as well. This is one of the things I think is going to be revealed in 2023. Some of the serious problems that we've had of corruption going on in the background. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there because it's quite a long video already. I'll do some more for you later on. Don't forget, if you want, you can always subscribe to this channel. We'll probably be a little bit intermittent with the things that we're doing over the coming period because, you know, Christmas is on us. But I'll try to bring as many videos as I can on the prediction side of things up to January. And so put your questions in the comments. I can't answer all the comments, obviously, but I do read them all. So any questions you ask, I do take on board. And don't forget to like, share and subscribe. And we'll see you all again next time, folks. So now I've just got to find one last thing, actually, just one final thought about all this, actually, before I go. Actually, I was thinking about, you know, the spiritual side of this, because when I make these predictions, of course, it always can feel a bit worrying for people. But when you think about it, happiness always lies here in the present, in my opinion. You know, if you think about the past is gone. We can never, there might have been happiness in the past, you know, but when we look at photographs of people we've lost and things like that, we can often, those happy memories can become very sad sometimes. So if we live in the past, we can easily become down and depressed, can't we? And the future is still not decided. Because, you know, even though I see bits and pieces and see things, it can turn and it can change, and we have free will to make things change. And if we worry and try to live in the future too much, we live in a state of worry. So we live in worry if we look to the future. We live in depression if we go too far in the past. So our happiness has to always be in this present moment. And if we live in the present, then we can be happy. We can be happy in this period of time, you know, and I think that's one of the keys to going through life unscathed, because there'll always be troubles in the world at any state. It always seems more terrible than it really is. But mankind always gets by, don't we? We always seem to survive. We've been here millions of years and we've gone through incredible changes in our existence while we've been here. And we can never solve the problems of the world, but we can solve the problems in our heart. We can find that space in ourselves where we can really learn to be truly happy in ourselves, you know, and that's by living in the now. It's living in the now. And I just want to say, if you're still with me, don't forget to get my book, Be Happy. You might enjoy that as one of your Christmas gifts. Anyway, we'll see you soon. Thanks for joining us. Bye for now.
They're the real deal, and they're really sweet. Like, you can tell they come from a place of love, which is very endearing.
I know. You know a charlatan, and especially in Los Angeles, you know when you're meeting shady people. These guys are the real deal, no doubt. Yeah.
Everything about the reading was just spot on, down to the colour. She gave the colour blue, which was very prominent because we wore blue to the funeral and it was his favourite colour. So I've seen a lot of mediums before. I was very impressed with them.
very, very good connection. I couldn't believe the connection I got tonight.
Definitely.
Aye.
We're definitely talking to our loved ones.
He said about the photograph, well, I had all them, and he said to me, you've got that in your bag. And I did. I had everything in my bag, they said. When I went outside for a break, and I said to Carol, they know things that nobody else knows.
Now, where was I at the back there?
She was spot on. Everything was right. It all meant a lot to me. She had my father's name, everything, things about my brother. There's been problems with my brother. And I'm so glad to hear of them both. My father, he was doing this. I'm just glad he's friends with me because things happened. It's all just a bit emotional.